And next, Nick Schulz, DeWitt Wallace Fellow at the American Enterprise Institute.
Jim, thank you. Thanks for having me here. It's great to be here. It's a fascinating panel. I work at the American Enterprise Institute, which is a think tank here in Washington, D.C. I do research on political economy issues, telecom, media, and the like. And what I think would be useful for me to do today is to talk a little bit about the book that Jim mentioned that I published last year under the title From Poverty to Prosperity. The subtitle of that book, and it's what I want to focus on today, is Intangible Assets, Hidden Liabilities, and the Lasting Triumph Over Scarcity. And it's sort of a mouthful, but I want to talk about these intangible assets and hidden liabilities because it's very important to understanding modern economic growth. Actually, the book will be out later this year in paperback under the title Invisible Wealth, and that's a theme that I really want to talk about today. That's germane to some of the things that Rob and Hillary and Jim have already been talking about. The reason I wrote this book, I wrote it with an economist named Arnold Kling, was to tell a story, and it was to tell a story about how economists and social scientists and political scientists had changed how they view economic growth, what causes it, how it's constituted, why it's experienced in some places and not others. And I think the best way to illustrate that change is to talk about what used to be the standard narrative for economic growth. Economists thought that, in your sort of Econ 101 class, you had the main factors of production were land, labor, and capital. These are tangible goods, things you could see. Obviously, the land that you could use for farming, labor, that's pretty basic, and capital, built capital, so factories and things like that. And development economists thought, well, if you just have, most places have land and labor, and if you just get the capital that they need, whether it's factories or dams or you can make steel, that's what you need, and then economies will be off and running. Well, as it turned out, that and that's sort of a highly stylized version, but that was a view that dominated economic thinking for a long time, and actually, unfortunately, still dominates how some multilateral and aid organizations today still think about development. That view could be taken to really sort of grotesque and extreme consequences. I mean, if you think about China, Rob mentioned China today, and it's an impressive place for foreign direct investment. Well, China, think of what China was like under Mao, right? Communism then was sort of this cargo cult where it said, well, look at what advanced countries have. They have things like steel. So what we need is steel. They have these tangible goods. So we'll go out and we'll produce steel. And what will we do? We'll force our peasants to take their perfectly good iron utensils out back and melt them down so that China will have steel. And then if we have steel, we'll be developed like other developed countries. Well, as it turned out, there was more to the story. And so in the book, we talk about this shift in thinking from the importance of tangible capital to intangible capital. That's what we call economics 2.0. The way to think about the importance of intangible capital to economic growth is that it's kind of like the software layer of the economy. It's basically the code by which your economy runs. These the intangible factors of production would be things like governance, laws, norms, cultural norms, the level of trust in society, the basic level of investor protection, the level of entrepreneurial risk-taking. These are things that you can't necessarily see, and so they were discounted or they were just sort of overlooked for a very long period of time. But as it turns out, they are overwhelmingly the most important things when it comes to understanding why economies thrive and grow in a sustained manner over time. And so the book talks about this change in thinking and how it should influence how policymakers think about things like governance, about unleashing entrepreneurship, and about investment today.